Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I am your host, Sean Garmer, here with me as usual, Mr. Marc Morrison.
Howdy.
And well, we have the last regular show of 2024. We're that close to another year in gaming, and you know what that means. The next two shows are going to be Game of the Year and then our most anticipated of 2025. So then we'll kick off the regular stuff in 2025. Hope everybody has a good Christmas. And we have some things to talk about. Mark has more Infinity Nikki to discuss. Finally finished Remnant 2. I finally got out that review of Fantasia Neo Dimension, so I'll talk more about that. And then we have some interesting things. Sega is going to possibly do their own gaming subscription service. Capcom is looking at more revitalizations of dormant franchises. Nintendo's 2024 year in review, and some more info about the Switch 2. All that and more right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right. Well, we have quite a few things to go through, so let's get this housekeeping out of the way. I think actually all the shows are going on right now. After I looked at it, we have the Otaku Cafe anime guys going over their awards for fall anime stuff, and I think they're going to be doing their overall. Yeah, go ahead. They're doing it. Their overall ones next week. Same as we're gonna be doing Game of the Year, and then the Radlichen Broadcasting folks are doing their Sonic 3 review also. So that'll all be there if you subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's why it's awesome to subscribe, because you get all those shows in one place. You can also just listen on podcasts as well. Just go find each show, whether it's Otaku Cafe, Rouser Broadcasting, or us, Video Games to the Max, separately, and you can go and find out when they do new episodes. So that being said, you can also watch live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, W2 Network there. And yeah, always hit the follow, hit the likes. That helps out. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get this episode started here. Mark, where you want to start with your gaming?
Me and Jens finally finished up Remnant 2, like the third DLC. It had a really annoying trophy in it. We had to keep grinding out materials. In 3 different levels. He did one of them with me, but after that he was like, "Fuck this," and stopped. But I did the other 2, and then invited him into playing so he could get the trophy, which bugged out in my case. It's funny. Yeah, I got the trophy, but the requirement bugged out right at the end, which is funny.
Nice. At least it went through.
Yeah, exactly. If it didn't go through, I'd have been pissed.
Yeah, right.
What else? Yeah, still playing Infinity Nikki. I kind of figured out more the level requirements, or how to level up and certain things like that. So that's cool. Still a relaxing game. Bought a copy of Vagrant Story a few weeks ago.
Well, that's an awesome game.
Yeah.
How much did it cost you?
$80.
All right, not bad.
For a complete copy, I had it as a kid when I was growing up, so I kind of know that game and know how wonky it is in spots, but I like it. I don't know if I'll ever play it, but it's a good game to have.
Maybe one day it'll get a remaster.
I'd probably say it's probably one of Square's best. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Final Fantasy, but I like that Vagrant Story and Parasite Eve. Those were my games in that system.
Yeah, I mean, if there's that big rumor of Tactics remaster is
Right.
happening just behind closed doors. If you're gonna, that's technically tied to the Evilise history,
Just,
whatever. So
just have NIS do it and have use the Disgaea engine.
no. Let's the more we can leave NIS out of it, probably the better on that end.
Uh,
Anything else there?
let's see what else. Not really. Although I had to order a $200 cable for my PS3 dev unit, which
Why?
depresses me. That thing doesn't have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth built in.
Oh, okay.
Uh, so this is like this wired antenna that I've only ever seen it pop up on eBay once in the past 2 years of having that thing. So it's like, well, I kind of have to buy this one because I'm never going to see this again.
Is it so you can like get games onto it, or like why do you?
Well, like the reason is like Bluetooth, like using like the Bluetooth move controllers.
Oh, okay.
So you know that Until Dawn game?
Right. Mm-hmm.
That was originally a PS3 game that used the move controllers. But
Oh, okay.
if you don't have them, or if your system can't, doesn't have Bluetooth, it just says like plug in, press the home button to use the controller. It's like, yo, dog, I'm trying, but this ain't working.
Yeah.
So that's cool, I guess. And I think that's about it. About the stupid oh, what is it? I just buy the Samurai Jack game on Steam today.
Yeah, they got the winter sale going on. So
No. Yeah, Samurai Jack Battle Through Time. I've actually heard it's an okay game, but it just got yanked down from Cartoon Network. So
oh
want to
wow.
get
Okay.
it now while I can.
All right, fair enough.
But what have you been playing?
No, I got my review done for Fantasian, so I'm glad to have that like out of the way. And so that's up on the Outer Haven there. If y'all, I'll have the link in the description. Um, Gave it an 8 out of 10. A great game if you haven't played that on the Apple Arcade. So, like those JRPGs, I think like I talked about last time, definitely one to check out. Not that there was a shortage of those
Yeah,
this year. There were so many. There's like no way you could play them all unless like you just have so much time. I'm sitting here thinking about like we're gonna do our game of the year on Saturday, and I'm like, well, I definitely don't have time to even try to start getting through any more metaphor. So,
yeah, you do. Come
uh,
on, man. It's only an 80-hour game.
right, yeah. So, I'm just trying to see it. Maybe I might do more Indiana Jones or something just to see if it's going to go any higher than everybody. I already did my. I haven't done the actual like writing part, but I did my top 10 for the Outer Haven game of the year, which is already up there. Um, I'll put a link in the description to that as well. I don't want to spoil who, so y'all can go read the article as to what game won.
Everyone knows it's just that NCAA football game.
Right. I will say it's a JRPG, so you can guess on that. But take your pick of all the all the ones that have come out this year. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like I was just trying to get through that this week, and then also with a lot of trying to get with work, and I wasn't feeling well actually since the last time we did the show with the Game Awards. It's partially why we missed on Monday, and another one was just because it's like I kind of looked at it and I was like, there's not a whole lot for us to cover, and I don't feel well, and I was like, let's just wait till next week.
Right.
So I've been kind of recovering and all that stuff, and work's just been terrible. Today was terrible. Being the day before a lot of places closed wasn't it was just busy. But all right. Moving on to talking about gaming stuff here. Some few things to go through from the last couple weeks. One of them being that it didn't necessarily go down the way that we all thought it would. Sony made their move when it comes to Kadokawa, but they did not go for the full acquisition. What they did was they just decided to make themselves the company with the most shares in Kadokawa instead. So they now own 10% of the company. So Kadokawa remains independent, but they
for now.
Yeah, I mean, I think really the only reason they would need to buy them is if Tencent or somebody came in and was just like, oh, we're gonna try to do some kind of takeover.
Hassle takeover.
Yeah,
that was the rumor for the like Hong Kong company or whatever. Like
that Korean company, I think it was.
Yeah, Korean.
Which they did that with like a bunch of K-pop stuff. So that there was an actual fear of that, but for right now, they are basically promising that they will work together, essentially, to do a lot of what we said, which is this really doesn't have to do that much with video games. It has to do a lot more with all of the other things that Kadokawa does. Anime, manga, novels, light novels, TV dramas, live action films, all those things that Sony is very much interested in. With their transmedia stuff that they do, they have that whole Sony Productions, PlayStation Productions thing on the movie side. Not that their non-Spider-Man related movies are doing great or anything, but the other ones are doing okay.
Hey, Spider-Man's doing great. What are you talking about? Craven was a big hit.
Yes, exactly. Which I can't believe they did, but they did. The Rouch and Broadcasting folks reviewed that movie too. So at least they are consistent if there's anything on that. But and then what's funny is that like after they released that movie, then you find out that apparently somebody thought it was a bad idea to have Spider-Man involved in those movies, even though there was nothing saying Spider-Man couldn't be involved in those movies. So it's like, did Disney just psych you guys out to not have Spider-Man be involved? Like, I don't know how that works, but now that Spider-Bat, they had Across the Spider-Verse, but I don't know what's the part 2 of that is called officially. It may not have an official name
Beyond
yet.
the Spider-Verse?
Beyond the Spider-Verse, okay. That one got delayed to now it's 2026. So
yeah, that movie sounds like a huge mess right now. So it's kind of unfortunate.
It sucks because we were so excited my daughter and I were so excited when we got to the end of Across the Spider-Verse and it's like, oh, there's another part to this. And then oh wait, it's not even gonna come out like that quick.
Yeah, it's not like
you're gonna wait.
It's not like 6 months later, or it's not even like a year later. It's like, it's barely work has started on it, and it's like, wait, what?
It's like, oh, I thought y'all were a lot further away, down the line on this, and they technically were. It's just now it's apparently going through some kind of development hell for a while,
right?
So that kind of sucks. But aside from that, yeah, I know a lot of the anime people were worried because it would mean Sony would own a lot of, basically a lot bigger of the pie of anime, which is understandable, right? And I wonder if it would have got flagged by anyone in the whole FTC or anybody possibly, and maybe that obviously Sony has to spend a lot of money, and they spent a lot of money on video game related things that haven't necessarily worked out. Like right now, how is that big investment in Bungie going? Probably not that great. We know what happened with Concord, so this is probably the best of both worlds. You get to be number one, and then you don't have to own the whole thing. But like you said, we'll see how long that lasts. They're basically just saying that, this alliance lets them do what they want and have partnership with Kadokawa. And then ultimately, that's the kind of like cash cow for this right now. So, not that, and that's the thing. It's like, I think they really didn't want they didn't want to have to deal with like, okay, is From Software going to be a PlayStation exclusive thing? How much does that take away from the money we could make, all that stuff? So
yeah.
But hey, Sony did put out more games on their PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, and they had some interesting choices here. I mentioned, the Sonic movie. There is Sonic Frontiers on here, which,
I like that game quite a bit,
yeah,
so that's
you
cool.
liked it. Forspoken, that's probably going to be my opportunity to finally play this game. Being on
I'll
here.
play it for like 20 minutes and be like, fuck this.
The Rabbids Party Legends game is on here, a WRC Generations game. Also, Fist, the Forge and Shadow Torch is actually pretty decent. The Coffee Talk games are really good if you like visual novel type games, and also Space for the Unbound is great. It's one of those games with a message that people should definitely check out. Jurassic World Evolution 2 is also pretty decent from what I remember.
Yeah.
So, and there's also the PSVR 2 title of Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge as included in here too. So, some pretty good selections there, especially if I haven't played a lot of those games. So, yeah. Going to before we get to what Sega's going to Sonic here. Have you watched the Sonic movie yet, or?
No, I'm probably gonna see it next week if I can. I got a friend who wants to see it probably. Yeah, I gotta see that and Nosferatu. So
Yeah, I'm hoping to go see it. I might maybe New Year's Eve or something.
yeah.
I'm gonna go check that out for sure. And yeah, because I know I promised that I would go see. We watched the other two in theaters, so definitely gonna be checking this one out. And yeah, Sonic's it's incredible because it's going up against a big Disney live action movie. Mufasa also came out the same day, and Sonic Hedgehog 3 like doubled it in revenue for
It's not like hugely surprising to me necessarily because like most kids barely know what Lion King is.
but Lion King it's the most profitable of the live actions for them.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, yeah, this is a spin-off which requires you to have watched the Lion King and also care about a lot of people don't care about the prequels, right? Like when you have
Right,
the
that's
prequels
another
come
yeah.
out,
That'd be me.
no one cares. So that's the thing too. I think also people have been for a while, but I think this is really starting to get into the like live action fatigue with Disney. Like most people don't even want these to begin with. And then
Right.
Disney has been able to hit gold with a few of them, but most of them are kind of just, all right.
Yeah.
And I think
Don't
that's gonna be them pulling back a little bit on that. I don't know.
don't worry, that Snow White movie's gonna tear it up.
We'll see about that. I
Yeah.
don't know. But yeah, I mean that's still cool that Sonic is doing great in the movies. There's going to be a fourth one already planned for 2027. I'm not going to
Right.
spoil who shows up as the next character to look forward to.
Come on, man. You spoil it. You know it's gonna be Big the Cat.
Apparently, Big the Cat was almost in the second movie, according to reports. But okay, I'm going to give a hint to people that have actually watched or listened to the show over the years. If there's one character, not the one that Mark just mentioned, the one that I always mention, and Mark kind of like rolls his eyes,
Yep.
you'll guess who the next big character is for the next Sonic.
Right.
But I'll leave it at that so that you guys can go enjoy that when you see it. But I mean, they're coming out with these like pretty steadily. Like I'm surprised how steady they are with these, and like they already know that they're coming out with them, and it's like in a world where a lot of things are uncertain when it comes to franchises, it's crazy to see Sonic is is the one
They
you
successfully moved into the Fast and the Furious pipeline.
Yeah. Right.
Meanwhile, fucking Nintendo can barely get Detective Pikachu 2 off the ground.
I mean, to be fair, they did find their big movie with the Mario, so we'll see how that goes past the second Mario movie, which
Right.
I'm sure that will do great numbers. Also, maybe not, the monster numbers the first one did, but who knows? Almost close to it, I guess, maybe.
Yeah.
Plus, we still got the Zelda movie coming, so we'll see how that. I think that's the one that's interesting for me. Like, how well will that do?
The interesting one to me is going to be the survival horror ice climbers movie with the two guys stuck on the mountain.
We really have gotten to the bottom of the barrel if we were getting. I would imagine that they will make a Smash Brothers movie appearance, and that's what we'll
Yeah.
see. But since we're on the SEGA train here, probably the biggest, like, I guess, surprising news out of what's been the last couple weeks is that of all the things that is going on, because we've seen like Game Pass has diminishing returns. Obviously Ubisoft Plus diminishing return. For Sega to announce that they are possibly doing a subscription service seems kind of like weird when it feels like people are almost trying to figure out how to get rid of the subscription service or just like not give it that
It's
much love,
it's only weird until you realize they were the originators of the subscription service with the old Sega channel.
Well, yeah, true. But
If they brought that back, it'd be so awesome.
that, yeah, I mean, with the whole dial up and everything, you gotta.
It wasn't dial-up. It was over like the cable modem or cable, cable box.
Well, I mean, with Dreamcast, you had to have, you could do it with the dial up.
Well, that was dial-up, but
Yeah,
the Sega cable channel was literally like a cable channel. Like you
yeah.
dialed it.
But then they
It was
have like a
awesome.
Sega,
They had like Sega
sort of,
Net.
yeah.
But it wasn't like they may have like one or two like very small games, but they might have even been free because they couldn't really do much because you're trying to download stuff to like a VMU, which had like 10 megabytes of memory or something. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean,
It's neat. Like go for it, I guess.
so what do you think? So the interesting thing for me is like, okay, they obviously have a lot of experience with this because they've been giving their games very like liberally to Game Pass. Yakuza's been on there
Right.
constantly. They've done the same with PlayStation. So they've got a lot of experience as to like what this can do for your games, as far as like obviously giving your franchises love that maybe people don't know a lot about, right? Especially when you're about to have a new release in Yakuza's case, where they've steadily been having games released all the time. I think Atlas the same thing, right? Uh, with Persona and all that, they've been giving that to Game Pass. So it's like, I wonder what the decision is for this. Do you feel like, is it because maybe you're worried about some of these like franchises you're bringing back that you don't necessarily have faith people are going to go out and buy them? Like, what do you think is behind this idea, and what do you think they're going to do with it? Like, is this going to be Game Pass? Is it going to be PlayStation Plus? Like, what do you think this is going to be more akin to?
I can probably be more like PlayStation Plus, although they would have like all the old crap, like just a bottom or just as a everlasting tier. But you got to imagine that like Microsoft isn't ponying up for like the big exclusives anymore, or they don't particularly care about I mean, they care somewhat about Yakuza, but it's not like people are subscribing just for Yakuza or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, if they want to try it, go ahead. I think they have a better shot than like EA or Activision, or not Activision, Ubisoft, because like those companies don't really have like the history or like the the long, and they don't really care to either.
Yeah, for me, I think it's it's, I don't think you can't do what Xbox is doing, where you're essentially giving games away. I don't know that the Ubisoft like in between works. I don't think you shouldn't have any kind of system where you're giving people the opportunity to play your games day one, because we've seen what that does to sales. So
Right.
it really kind of depends on, we see how quickly they keep breaking these records of, especially on PC. Oh, hey, fastest game selling to 1 million. Metaphor just did it the same day. It took Persona 3 Reload like 5 days. They did it with Infinite Wealth as well. Like, that's going to eat into those sales margins if you're going to do this, even if it's just on console, say, if you're Sega. So, like, I feel like, okay, maybe you can do that with some of those I guess the new versions of Jet Set Radio or something like that maybe you don't think is going to sell crazy, or like Crazy Taxi, maybe that's multiplayer focused. You could do something like that, but
those
yeah,
things are so like still far off,
yeah.
like.
But I mean, this doesn't necessarily sound like it's happening, in 6 months either. Feels like it's in the planning stages. So I don't know. You
Right.
kind of have to have something that you're launching with this to get people interested. So it's like, is it the whole back catalog to a certain point? Is it, you got to have something that's going to be driving this. I feel like, okay, maybe you're gonna have all the Yakuzas, maybe all the Personas, things like all the Sonics, whatever on there. It is interesting that, like, okay, you're taking down all your classic games,
Yeah,
right?
they just did that like a few
So
weeks ago, or yeah.
so is that going to be sort of the, and they also have a comment where they're saying we're not doing any more of those retro consoles. We're not a retro company.
I mean,
So
my response would be like, yeah, you kind of are. Like,
Well, I mean, they're releasing a lot of new stuff too, so I kind of get the idea that they don't want to be seen as like we're a retro
right.
company. Also, those things are like no longer in vogue, right? Like, when Nintendo was doing them, they even kind of got Sony to do it with the PS1, and that thing wasn't that
Well,
great.
like the two Sega ones were decent though because they actually tried. Like the problem with the Sony one is they just they tried to do it on the cheap and didn't give a crap. So
And then also, like, you have that deal with Nintendo, like, are you gonna remove that? Are you just gonna keep that there, and then you kind of put that on your own service too? Like, how's that gonna work? Because it seems like they don't really ever remove. It feels like Switch Online is the one you can count on where you're not really gonna see things go away. So,
right.
and that is they sold that like expansion pack as like one of the big deals is that you're gonna get Sega Genesis games. So, like, how long is that deal? And do they just, oh well, these games are so old, who cares? We'll just keep it on there, and then we'll have it on our own thing. I mean, because they also have some of those games on the Ant Stream arcade thing too. It's a separate
Yeah.
deal. So yeah, obviously a lot of this stuff is sort of in the planning stage. We don't even know if this is actually a thing. This is just something that's been talked about. Is it something that's even going to happen, right? Because it's like they have all these movies in production, or half those movies even going to come out, right? So, like Crazy Taxi, Shinobi, and all this stuff. So
Probably not.
they are reviving franchises, so it makes sense if they want to have a home for all this stuff. Like you said, they definitely have the catalog to have their own service.
Right.
The thing is going to be the price, and then will you offer anything necessarily new to get people to stay subscribed, or is it all going to be retro stuff? That's stuff that we gotta like come down the line. But I do think that like I don't, just be wary of giving things away on day one, regardless of the price, right? Even if you're gonna say, oh, you got to pay $30 a month to have something day one, like even that, people will be willing to pay just to not have to pay full price.
Yeah.
So just be careful with that. Speaking of old games, we've already seen it bear fruit with two franchises that were, brought back in announcements at the Game Awards for Capcom, and we've seen that over the years many times now with Resident Evil and all that stuff. This is a full-born thing. They are bringing back dormant franchises according to Capcom themselves, and they will continue to look into that. Obviously, they have their own remaster remake corner over there with Resident Evil, and they said they're basically going to just keep churning those out until I guess they don't sell anymore.
Right.
Do you worry about like this is too much, or is it just like it doesn't matter because Capcom's doing so well, they can do this? Or
I mean, if the games were bad, it'd be a problem, but they're all like high quality, so I think it's fine.
yeah,
But
I don't
I
worry
mean,
about it. I think some of the like Okami 2, obviously, people have been wanting for a long time,
right.
and then getting Kamiya to come back for it or is awesome. Onimusha has been so long that I think telling people you're going to get Onimusha without tank controls and that it's going to look awesome, especially in the realm we are in with Souls likes or Souls ish games are so popular now. You could do
Yeah.
something like that with Onimusha. I think you could get people to get hooked on that series again. Is there a series that you're looking at where it's like, okay, yeah, this could do well?
I would actually legitimately like a Mega Man Metroidvania game. And
Yeah,
everyone's probably
yeah.
like, people want Dino Crisis, but it's like that was never a great game or never a great franchise. Like, you people need to have your head examined.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Dino Crisis is inevitable. I feel like it's gonna happen.
I mean, you probably want Breath of Fire to come back, knowing
Yes,
you.
I definitely want Breath of Fire to come back. That would be so cool. And in the realm that we are in, where JRPGs are, I'm not saying every return of every franchise is a hit because it's not. But hey, if you're gonna come, we've seen it happen. We keep seeing all of these like in the vein of Chrono Trigger and all these other ones, right? Like, why not give it a shot, bring it back? You do so well in other areas that you could withstand a like, oh, Breath of Fire doesn't have to sell 5 million copies, right?
I mean, the
Um,
two I would want is Power Stone and then Rival Schools.
I think it is positive that Power Stone and Power Stone 2 were included in that Capcom collection. So
Yeah.
maybe it has a chance for it to happen. Maybe they'll do a new Dead Rising. I'm not sure how well the remaster completely sold.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I didn't hear much, but
I know people are wanting. I feel like Devil May Cry like remasters are kind of inevitable too. Um, I know Kamiya also said he wants a Beautiful Joe 3.
right. I'd like that. I
So
mean, yeah, I like Beautiful Joe quite a bit.
if
At least,
Okami 2 sells well, I could see where they let him have uh, that
right.
for
It's like,
sure.
all right, we'll finally give you this.
Yeah, I definitely think Mega Man is it's time for.
Like I don't want like a new just like a new retro Mega Man either. Like Mega Man 11 was kind of okay, but like it's almost like too complicated in spots.
Right.
Like I just it'd be nice if they could give it like to like the Axiom Verge guy when he's like not going crazy and be like, all right, you're Rock. Find Mega Man part shit to make yourself Mega Man. Just like that secret level episode.
Yeah. Which that got renewed. So that's
Which
cool
is
for
kind of surprising. I mean, I don't know if you watched it, but I know Jens did. And he's still crestfallen over Concord getting canceled, even though I never played it before and didn't care about it before it wasn't canceled.
now I'm really intrigued to that Pac-Man game after I saw the secret level episode.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like totally down with playing Shadow Labyrinth whenever that comes out now. You know, look, I think this is a great idea for Capcom. I think more places should be willing to bring back their old franchises. The
Maybe
thing
like
is,
Square.
Capcom, yeah. Well, okay, Capcom does them correct. Like they bring it back full force. They give it love, and they do it right. Not like Square Enix where we do that and they just release 6 games all at one time, and it all gets lost. They do this where people actually have time to play these games. It did well for Dragon's Dogma as well, even though it got its love, even though it kind of like fell off
Right.
after a while. Seeing like Ghost Trick come back, that was cool. Not something I thought was going to come back either. So, like, I have kind of total faith right now in Capcom to,
I mean, ideally, it'd be nice if they're making new stuff, but as long as like the old stuff is still holding up, like, go for it.
Yeah, I hope that not everything is like, oh, that's just, I mean, more in the vein of what we just saw announced, right? Like sequels, spin-offs. Not necessarily, I don't want a remaster of everything that already came out.
Oh man, you're missing the point because they can remaster it. Like, you know how that GameCube Resident Evil game came out, 20 years ago, and then like 10 years ago they put it back out on like 360 and PS3. Now they can remaster it again.
I'm
So it'll
pretty
be
sure they mentioned that was on the table.
Yeah, it'll be a constant cycle of, well, here's a Resident Evil 2 remake.
I mean, when it comes to Resident Evil, I wouldn't be surprised if like everything's on the table at that point because they are trying to like sort of make the story work
except
more.
For Code Veronica.
Yeah. Well, but I think they even mentioned Code Veronica in that whole like they're thinking about it, but obviously it looks like 5 is probably the next one.
Right.
After 9. So at least even with that, they're still continuing on the series as well. They're not just like going backwards and doing just remasters and remakes. So that's positive.
Where's Maximo?
Yeah. I mean, the Bionic Commando. Let's do that too. But we'll see. I'm sure that Capcom will surprise us with more announcements as we get into 2025. But it's good that they have this initiative, I guess, out there for us to know that it exists, and that so everybody can fantasize about whatever Capcom thing they want to come out later. But all right, I mentioned the secret level thing got renewed. It apparently did well enough in its first week to make Amazon give it the go for season 2. It did 155.3 million minutes watched in the US, 1.4 million views based on that runtime, which I wonder how much that counts for. I wonder how much it was in other countries if they're only factoring in the US as far as like whether they decided to renew that or not.
Is there like a franchise or like a game you would actually like to see like that have an episode?
I'm trying to think of.
'Cause, I mean, for me,
Yeah,
it'd probably just be Metroid, even though like Nintendo didn't do anything with this
I
thing.
don't think Nintendo would touch this. That's why I was like, if for me, it would be like a Nintendo, or like I don't think Square Enix would touch it either. Because they could just do stuff on their own, both of them.
But like, I
So
mean,
yeah,
they could, but they're not. So it's like, why not give it to this, or lend Parasite Eve, or I mean, I don't think like a Final Fantasy would work, but something a little smaller or more self-contained from Square could be fine.
I think they would only do it if they actually have consideration on making something with that game.
Right.
Right. So like, if you're going to include a Parasite Eve, well, that better mean that we're doing a Parasite Eve game.
Yeah.
Because most of these things have something tied to it where it's either okay, Mega Man is basically just, it's Mega Man. You could have a game for Mega Man at any moment. They've also had all those collections, so okay, whatever. Look at Pac-Man. That's essentially that game. Came from that secret level episode. So
You should bring
yeah.
back Captain N, the Game Master.
It's interesting to me too, like when they announced that like Arcane does really well for Netflix, but apparently it doesn't drive people to play League of
Yeah,
Legends.
but
Yeah,
I think it was like financially bombed, or like because it cost a lot of money, obviously.
but also like, what do you guys expect? Like League of Legends is such something. League of Legends itself is not made for people to want to just go in and play that game. The people that play that game are not very open to others joining and playing that game.
Plus, like from what I understand, like even like it's not like it says like Arcane, go play League of Legends. Like I think Jens watched that show and he barely even like knew it was
Yeah,
connected
it's more
to
to
the
know
game.
the characters about that come from those games. It's not necessarily gonna factor in going the other way.
Right.
And I think that's why they made other games with those characters to get
Yeah.
people to enjoy those, because they know how hard it is to get people to play League of Legends. You're going up against people that are like have years and years and years and years of experience with those games, with that game. So
Yeah.
it's just, look, I don't know how well Game Pass did for League of Legends for that whole year that it was like free on Game Pass or whatever, but I can only imagine it didn't do bonkers numbers, because I never heard Phil or anybody else talk about, oh, League of Legends is driving people to sign up for PC Game Pass. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that was necessarily a driver either. So, but look, it's in the world that we live in where it almost feels like you need to have a transmedia thing for your franchise in order to kind of like go above just being the game. It's good, right? Because people talk about that show. People love that show. It does well as far as like awards and things like that. Will get you recognition. So
Right.
they did say this is the last season because I guess it costs a lot
Yeah.
for them to make.
Yeah.
But it kind of sucks because I know people. I haven't watched them yet. I keep every time I say I'm gonna start watching it, like something else gets in the way. But everybody that always starts it that I see, they go, "Oh man, you got to check this out." So
Yeah.
that says something. The word of mouth for that
Even
show.
even anime snob Yen said it. So
Yeah, exactly. That tells you a lot, and he has no connection to
right.
Arcane either. Um, just before we get out the topic too, did you see the this is the total indictment of EA, right? Glenn Schofield and two others involved in Dead Space said they went to EA to talk about what about a Dead Space 4, and they said no.
Yeah.
That they would basically, they ran down the numbers and that it would cost too much. for them to basically it would cost them more than they know they're going to get back for it. So they said no. And that kind of sucks because it's a series that people liked a lot. Remake did what, 2 million, still wasn't enough.
Right.
And
my problem is like Glenn Schofield, like he's a smart guy, but like look at his last game, Callisto Protocol. And
technically, I think that has to do with they also were kind of lied to about they were going to be allowed to delay the game and they weren't allowed to, and then all of a sudden they had to like push that thing out. And
well, yeah, he made some comment, yeah, like we got to get it out, or yeah, like.
And then it's also like, oh crap, we can't run into Dead Space remake also, so it's like, what do we do? We need to get this out, and
yeah,
you could kind of tell it was rushed, right? So you're right about that's what he has last on his CV, but it's different when you're working with the franchise that like you helped create and you're working with the big publisher. So
right. I mean, Silent Hill and Resident Evil proved that there's a big market for horror games, but Dead Space, it didn't do that well. I mean, or enough for EA to greenlight 2.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how much did Silent Hill 2 sell. Like it eventually did reach 1 million, but you haven't heard anybody say, "Oh, it reached 1.5 million," or anything like that, or 2 million, right? So like, you would think if it did reach that number, Konami would have said something, right? So I think it's like Resident Evil is kind of like, the Atlas level or Final Fantasy of, okay, there's this, and then everything else is kind of below. You're not going to get to that level, right? So it's like you have to have the expectations of horror is loved. Horror is a big genre right now, but it's still not the genre.
Yeah.
So the sales expectations have to fall in that, and we know how EA is about everything that they allow to be made. It has to be bonkers numbers almost, unless you get lucky like Joseph Fares, where it's like your game just becomes crazy. And it's crazy to think, look, It Takes Two is an awesome game, but like somebody telling me that game sold 20 million is still insane to me.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, see about the game, it offers a unique experience.
Right.
Then going like, hey, here's another Dead Space Marine, or
But will they be able to do that again the second time with Split Fiction?
I think so.
That's going to be interesting to see, because It Takes Two was interesting. It was a concept that like you don't see ever really. You don't see that whole like, oh, we're basically having a divorce and we're playing through that in a video game kind of thing. So that touched parents, along with the mechanics that changed all the time for your kids, and you play it with your kids. And then now you have like, okay, sci-fi fantasy, those are both big genres. How can we push that together and then do that again with a different concept? I hope it does well, because like I love seeing him succeed, and obviously seeing the smaller games succeed always a good thing. But I feel like it's not going to hit that same level of hype, but we'll see, I guess, as far as that goes. But yeah, sucks to see that EA couldn't greenlight Dead Space 4 when we have all these franchises kind of like coming back, and Dead Space didn't get to have its sequel that I think a lot of people wanted to see. That is kind of what they wanted to do. They wanted a remake to do well enough to not only be able to do a Dead Space 2 remake, but also eventually be able to get to the point where you can do Dead Space 4. But just really quick here, we did have sales data for October, the best games in the US. No surprised that PlayStation 5, including the PlayStation 5 Pro, sold well, which accounted for like 19% of all the PS5 sales last month. It's still lower than the PS4 Pro, but also, I mean, being $700 is gonna do that. So we'll see lifetime what that means, right, for the PS5 Pro. If it's still around what the PS4 Pro did, then I think that's a success. If it's not anywhere close to that, then have to wonder diminishing returns on the whole. But I think if they really don't plan on coming out with another console until 2028, which if you watch that, I didn't watch it because it's 40 minutes of Marc Cerny talking, so you're gonna fall asleep. At some point.
You're talking about, man, that's riveting.
He did a 37-minute presentation on, I guess, like what the PS5 Pro is supposed to really represent and whatever. He does talk about it's a 4-year process to develop a console for Sony. So like they started on the PS5 Pro from the moment they were done with the PS5, regular PS5. So if they're done with the PS5 Pro now, you imagine that they're just now starting on or they've been at least for about 6 months to a year on the PS6, which we know is in development because they made that deal with AMD. So, yeah, we'll see. 2027, 2028. Is it coming around at that point? And yeah, at the big games, no surprise that Call of Duty, with the new Call of Duty and everything, is number one. That's not necessarily surprising, I think, for anybody as far as being number one for the month. Then Madden, EA Sports College Football 25, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero still doing well. Super Mario Party Jamboree there at number 6, and Mario Luigi Brothership at number 7. Pretty good for Nintendo there. Starting off the month, and then for like Dragon Age to only be out for one day in October and still be at 10th. I think that's pretty good for Dragon Age as well.
The people wanted it until they didn't.
Yeah, for sure. And then Dragon Quest 3, which has sold really well in Japan, obviously, but it apparently sold decently here in the United States as well. So that's good. I always like seeing that Dragon Quest continues to get more fans as we keep getting more games. So that's positive.
There's kind of a question. I mean, we might not be able to answer it, but overall, do you think Dragon Age would cost more or less than that Dead Space remake?
I feel like Dragon Age, because of how long they were in development, probably costs more.
Yep.
It depends on I mean, that's the thing is like we're getting into that realm where the companies know that they cannot keep doing this, spending 5, 6, 7 years making a game, right? So like Dead Space, yeah.
In Ubisoft's case, it's like 10, 13 years.
Yeah, Ubisoft is in their own realm, but it's like I'm sure Mass Effects, whatever they're gonna call it, has already been however many years in development. Like, I think they know that's part of the reason is like when they make a game now, it's like, okay, this is gonna take at least 3 or 4 years. Do we want to really spend that dev time for that?
Right.
Especially being the 4th game, it's like, can we really cut corners to where it doesn't cost us that much to make the game and then also doesn't take that long? I don't know. AAA development still needs to figure out a lot of things. Where it comes to like, how do we not make this to where it keeps snowballing in 2025 and beyond? But we'll see how that goes.
I just bring it up because they, no Dead Space remake or no Dead Space 2 remake, but they'll probably announce oh, Dragon Age is our leading franchise, or we look at it as like some top tier franchise. Even
I wouldn't be surprised if we're for sure going to get Dragon Age DLC.
Yeah.
If it did well enough. So, we'll see where that goes with that. But speaking of a company that has figured out what they want as far as where they're going and how they're going to make themselves different, Xbox continues to just mosey along in 2024 of just deciding they want to keep turning the apple cart when it comes to how we continue to make a console, but do things that you don't normally do when you have consoles. According to Jez Corden, which really isn't a surprise, it feels like, again, we're just waiting for them to go, okay, everything's just coming day and date now. But there's apparently it's kind of similar to that same thing we talked about with Phil Spencer saying there's no red line. Satya Nadella also talked about he wants everything to be everywhere kind of thing in an interview that he had not too long ago. Jez is basically saying that there will be no exclusives going forward for Xbox. Everything will be timed or nothing. Like we saw with Outer Worlds 2, apparently is now just going to come day and date with PlayStation 5. Whereas Indiana Jones got a little bit of a time exclusive window. Doom Dark Ages is coming day and date. Where do you think that does this really do anything for Xbox as far as like just saying, okay, we no longer have exclusives?
Yeah, it turns them into Sega.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I'm not kidding. Like,
like
that's what Sega went through. Like they killed the Dreamcast, and
that's the interesting thing is, right? Like Mark, if there's anybody that has the money to continue to pour money into R&D to make a console that people, the majority of people are not going to buy. If anything, they will just buy the old console that you will continue to make work with the new games because we're now bleeding into generations because of cost and people's wallets and all that stuff. So that means they're going to buy less of your new console that you're still going to put out there as the most powerful console, whatever. Do you think that it helps them at all if, say, they do the 360 thing where they come out a year earlier and people don't have the option of, say, the PS6 and they go, okay, this is the only newish console on the market because the Switch 2 will be behind at that point.
I mean, it would really depend on what they actually do with it.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, I don't know if you saw, there's like pie in the sky going like, oh, we're going to make the next Xbox is going to be cross compatible or cross platform, and they want to put like Steam on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm like, good luck, considering how much.
I mean, that's been rumored for a while, right? It's not something that Phil Spencer hasn't talked about, where he said,
yeah,
we would be open to being open.
Yeah, he's open to it. Who's not is Gabe Newell, and he's kind of the one who decides this shit. I mean, why do you think SteamOS exists? Because he hates Windows so much, or hates Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, he has opened the door for Microsoft to, like, it's not like he's shut them out completely. He was okay with them trying to make the Xbox app work with Steam Deck, right? But would he really returning the favor doesn't really help Steam necessarily. Yes, you still get your 30% off of buying it on the Steam store, and then you're just using the Xbox as the vehicle to play it, which technically now you can sort of do that with the G. So what would be the difference between doing that and the GeForce Now thing?
GeForce doesn't have an operating system that sucks.
Right, but okay, you're essentially using Steam as a okay, but most people are using Windows to play those games anyway. Like you're not putting Linux on your PC to run that.
Yeah, but why does the Steam Deck use Steam OS, which is like Linux based? Like they could have licensed Windows for that thing, but they clearly didn't because they don't see the value in it.
Well, no, I mean I understand that point. Like it's
Yeah.
obviously it's their OS, it's their Steam Deck. They want it to be proprietary and you all that stuff. But what I'm saying is, okay, if this is essentially just a Steam app that you essentially are playing big picture mode, but on your Xbox
Right.
instead of your PC or instead of your TV, the Xbox is the vehicle that allows it to basically be a PC where you don't necessarily have to
Yeah.
you,
I just
yeah,
don't see Steam doing that
yeah,
because they just don't like Microsoft that much. Or,
yeah. Fair enough.
and I also think like a lot of the hardware, a lot of it, they have a decent enough uh like system for like big picture and stuff like that, but they don't want to like be the have touch deals with the technical problems of this thing or people.
Yeah.
I've always heard that with like other companies.
If you're gonna say that it's essentially like they're gonna let you do remote play
Yeah.
of Steam, I can see it necessarily working, but if you're gonna tell me that I'm gonna boot up the app and all of a sudden now the Xbox is gonna do everything to run it, I think that's where Gabe may say, I don't know if I wanted to go that far, right?
Right.
Hey, at the end of the day, Gabe also likes money, so
Sure.
if this becomes a way for more people to buy more Steam games, I don't think he's going to care necessarily about that. It would be a way for me to buy it. I would buy more Steam games if I could use my Xbox to play games, because there are games that are only on PC, right? That
Right.
don't
But
don't come to
that becomes
console
like a
players.
headache for Steam to like having to like well, like those games aren't on big picture mode anyway.
Yeah.
It's not like you can play like Command and Conquer with like, I mean, okay, I guess they did make some gamepad editions of that thing, but or some mouse and keyboard only game. It's like no, not really.
Yeah, I look at it from the perspective of just more of, okay, Steam has a lot of times the best sales. So if I want to go
Yeah.
and buy a bunch of stuff on the Steam sales, and then I can then use my Xbox to play it, I don't have to worry about whether my PC can run the thing or not.
Right.
Then I'd be more likely to buy a lot more stuff on Steam, right? If essentially the Xbox would be my version of the Steam Deck, then cool. I will buy everything on Steam, right?
Right.
But again, it seems like a great idea, and I think for the handheld, the Xbox handheld, I think that is the only way you're going to get that thing to sell really well. Is I think you have to have that be open to other things. I don't know how Epic would be about necessarily working on that either, but I think if it's just going to essentially be what the Portal is, but you're gonna, or it can't just be the Xbox version of the ROG Ally. It has to offer something that's different than what's already out there, and I think that's the only way. Is we will work with other things that used to you would have to like sideload your Steam Deck or figure out some other
I mean,
way on your Steam Deck to do.
I can see them working with Epic way
Yeah.
easier than like Valve.
But that's like, we already know how people feel about Epic's story, and they give away. Epic is giving stuff away for free, and that people don't unlock it. So I don't
That's
know
called
that. Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, like I literally keep seeing the and those are games that might actually be interesting. And I'm just kind of like, I don't want to even have this launcher on my PC. So it's like,
Yeah,
forget it. I'm just not even
I
gonna
get
worry about
pissed
it.
when Amazon Prime has like free games. Like, oh, here's 10 free games, and half of them are on GOG, which is fine because
Yeah.
GOG isn't like they have a launcher, but you don't actually have to use it. You can just download their games like straight from the website. It's actually kind of nice. But the other half are on Epic. It has an Epic game key. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm not going to renew. Do this.
Is it because of that like percentage where they only get the 12%, or like why? I wonder why it is that they can't just do it on Steam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've always had kind of a, I would say, terse relationship with Steam. So
Okay.
maybe
That's
something went wrong, or
might be something with
who
like
knows? But
Amazon being a big corporation and Valve just
yeah,
being like, we don't want to deal with this.
yeah, I remember like way a long time ago they had a big fight with Nintendo about like DSs and crap. So
Yeah, could see that as well. But yeah, I mean, listen, Matt Booty also talks about that they're very much making the exclusivity and windowing decisions on a game by game basis. This is the same thing they've always said about everything.
right,
They're in a little bit different position. There's also a production timeline on the game, so the decision on spacing comes there first. And to make sure there's a great experience to our Xbox players, and then the gap between when it becomes available on PlayStation without saying PlayStation as a production decision as anything else. Listen, when they released that this is an Xbox thing, they essentially just didn't mention the two
yeah,
competitors without mentioning them, but they are also Xboxes. Okay. And as much as you Xbox only console owner at this point, probably very few that are considering that for the next generation. Uh, I understand that hurts. I understand that. Look, as somebody that I love Xbox. I grew up with the Xbox. Halo and Gears are some of my favorite franchises ever in gaming. I am one of those people. I will always be there to support Xbox. I'd rather them still exist in whatever form they're going to exist than them continuing to do what Sony and Nintendo do, and they keep losing because they have it doesn't matter how great the games are, they don't have a way to bite into that market. And I just don't think people are going to go and buy that third console. They're not. Nintendo is already I have to buy it, and there's already a Switch 2 coming. PlayStation people are going to buy those. It's just we're not in the realm of people wanting to have a third console.
right,
And if it allows those games to still exist and Microsoft still exists, but you have to either play it on the console you already own or you play it on your PC or your phone or whatever, then I'd rather them exist that way than, oh my God, it's all got to be shoved into this one console. Because we're eventually going to get to the point where there might not be consoles. And Microsoft is just kind of like far ahead in that realm at some point. So, as Sean Lane has said many times, PlayStation is going to keep selling to the same 50 million people. Eventually, they're going to. I really wouldn't be surprised if at some point before we get to the PS6 generation, they're putting more games on PC a lot faster. So I don't think we're going to get. I don't think this 2-year window is going to stay forever like that. It's eventually going to get shorter for
yeah.
Sony. And once you break that, I really think the whole we don't put it on the other console eventually is going to become.
The
But
the problem
why? You know, I mean,
the problem with your idea though is that I have a PS5 baseline unit, and if their proposed thing of going like, oh, it's going to last till 2028, that's fine. But if you bought a
no.
PC
Mm.
3 years ago or 4 years ago, and you think it's going to last until 2028, you're high on dust. Like,
Well, no, it won't. right? But you can also upgrade your PC where you upgrade the part. You don't necessarily have to buy a whole new PC.
Yeah, but then you just have to keep running the cycle of, well, now I need a new video card, and now I need a new, CPU or motherboard or whatever, or more RAM.
Yeah.
So,
But they also make the games so they can run on a wide variety of PCs. So,
but not
but
like
I,
the AAA or not like the PS5 era games like Spider-Man or Last of Us or stuff
right,
like
yeah,
that.
like the more and more the PS5 Pro gets used as the baseline, the less and less you're going to be able to have, especially once you get to like the the 50 series, whatever, GPUs.
Yeah, and like even if when I
So
get a new video card, I mean that's like $1,000 or $800 or whatever
exactly,
for like a 50, 70 or whatever. So
yeah, that's all gonna run you there. But I mean, we'll see. I'm sure that 2025 will open that door more. But look, honestly, I you can kind of see it. Like all of Activision Blizzard's games are all going to come out day and date like that.
the one thing that would actually get me to subscribe to Game Pass is if they include like roll up the WoW subscription into it.
I just don't see them doing that
No, it's too
because
lucrative. Like they're not going to do
yeah,
that. They'd be dumb, but to get me
exactly.
to sign up.
Oh, I would bet you I could understand that. That's like saying if Square ever did the same with Final Fantasy 14, I'm sure that would get a lot more people to sign up. But you know, they want that extra money, so that's one of those
Like I could
revenues
I
that they
could
can
be
keep.
buying cosmetics.
Right? Yeah, that's true. But moving on from that here, speaking of, maybe we don't know what if Game Pass continues to grow. We know the Game Awards continue to do well. They went up 31% compared to last year with a peak concurrent viewers of 154 million, which that's crazy. I wonder how much more they can really get each year. But it's good to
Right.
see on when you had a great Game Awards. People are turning in droves. It helps when you can have the big announcements, right?
Yeah.
This Game Awards had a lot of big announcements, so that helps. Uh, you know, cool for Jeff Keighley and that award show. It keeps doing well. We'll see. I guess will there ever be a time where it goes down in viewership? I wonder. But I think if you can keep
Eventually,
getting great announcements like that, it's going to do
if it
well.
ever goes down, they can bring back G4.
Oh God, that's what we're all waiting on. But talking about the Game Awards for a little bit because they had some games that were announced that they got some more information. One that I know you were kind of not necessarily you, but I know Jens was not necessarily happy about the way Elden Ring Night Rain was supposed to be mainly co-op based, which it is. You can only play it
Right.
with 3 players, not 2, but you can play it solo. So does that lessen the blow a little bit that you can play it solo?
No, because me and him are going to play it together anyway. His problem with the game is going to be a roguelike, or like
Yeah,
it's level based, and uh, he doesn't like that game. Like that game because, like, he doesn't like repetition in games. So,
right.
meanwhile, I mean, I don't. I mean, no one really does, but I can always tolerate it better. Or.
So does that mean that like you have to have 3 human players to be able to
Yeah, I
play
think they said
co-op?
that.
You can't have an AI and then 2 people. In a
Right.
sense is what they're saying.
Also, that would be bad because the player AI in those games, or the cooperative AI in those games is always like terrible.
Yeah.
So
They are going to do a network test in February.
yeah,
So you guys can try it out then. Hopefully, we'll see. But
I imagine
yeah, go
that
ahead.
thing's gonna be busted to hell.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Borderlands 4 Oh, the main writer went on. Sam Winkler, the narrative director, he went on social media to basically say that he's not at liberty to talk about the content of Violence 4, but they are trying to avoid the over reliance on toilet humor and memes.
So did Randy Pitchford leave?
Definitely not if he was the one showing it off at the Game Awards.
Right. I mean, that's the joke. Is I think he's like the weird big proponent of that crap. So,
but man, I he has to know that like you read all those reviews. That's the main criticism of it is the writing.
You say that, but then Tiny Tina came out and same thing.
I mean, that was kind of like already well in development by that. I don't think he could stop or change much of it. How well they, but I do like the joke of like I think Paul Tassi was like, "There's going to be a weapon called Hawk 2A,"
Right?
And and Winkler was like, "I'm gonna go, vomit if that's the case."
Well, it's like if that girl is still out of prison at that point, she can voice it.
Yeah. Like I personally don't care. It's gonna be what it is. I don't necessarily think I'm gonna play it anyway. So me personally, it doesn't bother me. But I know you liked Borderlands 3, but then you said you had to play it on mute. So
no, I didn't. The gameplay is still fine in those games, but yeah, it's just having to like listen to the damn story of the characters that suck.
Right.
So, and you can play like any game co-op as long as it's good, but
I mean that says a lot though. That's part of like the charm of Borderlands, or it was at the beginning, and then it's like it's progressively gotten worse, and so that doesn't help. Just really quick, Marvel Rivals has hit 20 million players. Does that entice you at all to want to play it? The fact that it's doing well and still
not really. Just because I'm done with hero shooters, really. I mean, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, why don't you play it?
Those are not my kind of games, so I don't know. Maybe if there's like nothing, it seems like January's not going to have a big game that I need to go play. So I don't know, maybe. So, you're going to try out this Stellar Blade Christmas event that's going on with the
No, because that required me to re-download Stellar Blade. So,
but hey,
I have the stock hard drive for my PS5. So actually, that manage games fairly well, especially like when Alan Wake takes like 120 gigabytes and other crap is also big. It's like, yeesh.
Same here. I still need to like play more of it. We'll see. I do like the fact that like between Stellar Blade and Astrobot, they both keep adding new content and new things to it. That's good. Like I always am a big proponent of when single player games can add things, even if it's cosmetic or whatever. I think it's neat for people to. They did add a little mini game in here too. So
I guess my problem is like it's cool, but like for most people, that game has already kind of came and went. Like
right, yeah, I agree.
So that's always a problem with like Spider-Man. It's like, oh, we added 3 more costumes. It's like, yo, dog, that came out like a while ago. Like,
yeah, and like, how much are you gonna go back to play just for these costumes, right? Unless you're one of those people that really love photo mode, or the freaks that like, oh, I gotta see how scantily clad this outfit is.
I mean, yeah, especially like that cosmetic stuff, because it's not like costumes even make a difference in Spider-Man. So.
Right. Well, Spider-Man, yeah. I mean, more for like Stellar Blade, but yes, just Spider-Man,
right, yeah,
same thing. Even though Spider-Man does have like some really cool ones they add sometimes, it's like, oh, we went back to this and it looks awesome,
Yeah.
But all right, let's go into Nintendo. We do have a like forward-facing one about the Switch 2. We'll get into in a little bit, but when you think of Nintendo's year, like what jumps out at you, I guess, the most here?
I guess that Zelda game.
Yeah, for me.
I mean, they had a pretty slow or not great year, I would say, because that Brothership game wasn't reviewed that well. Lego Horizons kind of came and went very quickly, almost alarmingly so. What else is there?
I mean, they had this was a year where it was like essentially just remakes, some spin-offs of games that we didn't expect for them to have, like Princess Peach Showtime and Echoes of Wisdom, which Echoes of Wisdom was a great game.
Right.
I'm looking forward to playing it next year. I didn't realize that I had not even touched my Switch this year until Dragon Quest 3 HD and East 10
Right.
reviews came for me. I had not planned to touch my Switch at all because I'm just like, well, I'm waiting until the Switch 2 comes out to like really touch anything that has to do with Switch because it's gonna be backwards compatible anyway. But really it's a lot of like, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. The only one that I kind of wish I would have played because I never played Paper Mario 1000 Year Door, which is great, but again, it's a remake, right? Mario vs. Donkey Kong, also a remake of a GBA game.
Right.
But I think it says a lot about Nintendo that they still made sure that even though they know people are just waiting around for Switch 2 news, and they had to let you know every time they had a direct that they were not going to announce anything that had to do with Switch 2, they still had like a big game come out pretty much every month. Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, Mario Party reviewed well. Randy says he loved it with his family, Jamboree.
Right.
So, that game did well. Echoes of Wisdom was in Game of the Year conversation. That did well. I know Brothership is kind of like mixed, but a lot of people did like that game. It just, there were some people that just really didn't.
Right.
So there was nothing necessarily like bad. And I think that says a lot about Nintendo's, quality of they're always consistent. Even stuff like, the Emio Smiling Man, which like nobody even really had on their radar. They just announced it and then it comes out and apparently it's a fantastic visual novel. If you're into those. But like they had a decent year, but like you said, it's quiet. Like what was everybody waiting on? It was, are they ever going to say anything about the Switch 2 at all? And they don't.
No.
Right?
Yeah, not until Q1 2025.
That says a lot about like Nintendo is that good at what they do that they can keep you in suspense for the entire year and just announce that, well, we're going to tell you about it at some point before March 2025. But what we really meant is that we're not going to tell you jack shit until until we're in 2025. So you will keep waiting. And we will keep, there's going to be some, I'm sure there's going to be leaks. We're going to talk about one. But we're not going to leak anything ourselves. And they did do that. They held on to that promise. Technically, they have 2 months still to announce it. So we'll see if
it's not a year thing. It's a financial quarter thing. So
right. Well, what I'm saying is like they still have that time to like not to meet that deadline that they set for themselves. They did announce something. I mean, they finally announced Metro Prime 4. Right, we know that's coming at some point in 2025. It's apparently a Switch game. We thought it was going to be like a Switch 2 exclusive for a while until they announced it is coming for Switch. We know Xenoblade Chronicles X is going to be another big game that they're releasing in March of next year. The Donkey Kong Country Returns. Yeah.
Right.
So they have something for each month leading up to March at least, and then whenever Metroid Prime 4 releases, I'm sure that's probably going to be a cross generation game from the looks of it. So, like, when do you think we're going to get this? You think it's March 2025 for the Switch? The rumors are it's even January. Like, there's rumors going around that as soon as we get to January, at any point, they could just announce that. They usually have a direct in February, so I'm going to go with February. When we get that February direct, I think that's going to be maybe we do a Switch 2 like announcement separately, and then we're going to have a direct that announces like the launch window sort of games or whatever for that. There's going to be a Mario for sure, right? Like, it feels like we haven't heard anything about a 3D Mario in so long. It feels like that's got to be a launch game, right?
You'd hope, but I mean, they've done dumber stuff, or like.
I think because Metroid Prime 4 is going to be there, but then like Zelda just came out. Like we literally just had a 2D Zelda. We had the Tears of the Kingdom the year before, so it can't be Zelda. What's the other huge franchise that they have? It's got to be a 3D Mario. Well, Mario Kart, but they've been continuously doing stuff with Mario Kart like throughout this entire generation. Like that'd be crazy if they have a Mario Kart 9 already set up.
No, it wouldn't, because like Mario Kart 8 is like a Wii U game for God's sake, so they need to upgrade that thing.
Yeah, but they've been like putting out new courses for that thing, like all throughout last year. So, and this year, excuse me. So, like
I could see them releasing like a Switch, not a Switch, like Zelda double pack, where it's like there's Breath of the Kingdom and Tears of the Kingdom, or Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, playing better. Like not a remaster per se, but like a slightly higher version of that game.
Yeah, like up-res version of it. And that leads me into this. So there's been like rumors dropping. I think D-Brand says that they had the form factor of the Switch because they're making accessories for it, which makes sense, right? And they're saying that they have the dimensions of the Switch, that it's apparently like an 8-inch screen, and it's going to have a certain number of ports. That they now there's a next handheld. Apparently, talked to The Verge, and they have the kind of ports that it has, which USB-C, USB-A, HDMI, Ethernet, the things you would expect. The thing that kind of like leads credence to the whole, this is going to be able to up-res to 4K with the AI, is that apparently the dock is going to do something this time. The dock is more powerful. It's not just going to be there to, it's now on the screen.
Hold the thing in place. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also supposedly Nintendo is going to eliminate stick drift with this one. Do you think they haven't even been able to do it? Like Sony can't do it with the PS5. Do you think that that's possible, that they're going to actually be able to
eliminate what?
Stick drift, like with a Joy-Con drift.
I think they could if they want to spend a lot of money on the analog stick. But here's the thing: is like the really batshit thing is like the PS2 or PS1 controllers didn't have that. The N64 controllers would eventually develop it, but like way late in life. It wasn't like 6 months, unless you were like beating the shit out of that thing. So why did analog sticks get worse as the generation went on?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much the having the magnetic thing instead of the rails is going to help at all, but that's another factor of this, is that they're going to apparently magnetically tie to the Switch instead of like just going the thing, which interesting because that's how they got the snap for the Switch, was the little sound that the rails make when you connect the Switch to the Joy-Cons to the Switch. So are they going to make a sound this time when they magnetically connect? Yeah. Like Do you are you excited for the Switch 2? And do you think it really will do like the PS4 Pro type graphics for the games? Or
I don't know. I haven't touched my Switch in so long. Like that's the kind of the thing.
yeah,
So I'll get it probably, or like kind of have to.
right, yeah.
But I guess it'll be like, will Nintendo keep making games that I actually like?
Well, you got Metroid at least. Um,
Yeah, but they don't come out with those too often, so it's not like
well, you'll have
like
it at like the launch of the system, so that's something that gets you to want to buy Switch 2, but you can also play on your Switch that you
not.
currently have. So
How long has Metroid Prime 4 been rumored? Or, like
but they actually showed it off and they told us it was coming in 2025. So like I kind of believe them when they tell us, this is happening because they definitely want to get that thing out of there with, like you said, the long development. So
right.
um I think they will. They're really good about, the devs are really good about making sure that people make those games for that thing. They've made games work on the Switch 1 that like really shouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
So, Doom and Witcher 3 and all that, it's crazy. Now
Yeah,
with
but
more
they were all like
graphical power,
a lot of those were like streaming. I mean, Witcher wasn't, but like Doom is like a streaming game, so I kind of not Doom. Sorry, like Resident Evil and crap like that.
yeah. I hope that means we're gonna get less of that, or at least we won't get that at all.
Right.
Now that there's gonna be more graphical power and they have the whatever their version of DLSS is going to be with that system. I mean, it's probably not going to play stuff that's only designed for especially PS5 Pro, but PS5 or Series X. But hopefully, if it's still working on Xbox One, PS4, it'll be coming to Switch for sure. Yeah, I just don't know now with the portable PCs that you have, like more of those are coming. Like, what are the legs going to be like with the Switch 2? I'm going to be very interested to see like Nintendo's output with all this stuff. Now that you're not going to have the cool thing about the Switch was it's the only thing out there like it. Now that there are other things that kind of do a lot of what the Switch does,
The the difference is it'll still have only Nintendo's games on it. I
yeah,
mean, it'll if you want to play Mario Kart, you're like, well, buy this thing.
right. And I mean that's very true. You'll have all the Nintendo stuff, but like when it first came out, it really was like the indie machine and all that stuff because you didn't have Steam Deck and all
Right.
that. I want to see like how that does as far as like, will it still have are you going to get the Switch effect with all these other game, the third party stuff that happened with Switch 1,
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's going to be a talking point for the whole next year. What's going to happen? I'm going to definitely be going out and getting one day one because I did it with the Switch 1. Love my Switch. Just later on in the generation when it couldn't play some of those, games that I'm looking forward to on PS5 and Series X, I didn't, do a lot with the Switch. Not to mention, Nintendo never has sales. They have a sale right now, and like nothing that came out this year is on it.
Well, it's always like here's Mario Odyssey for $40. That's like what? Like
Well, yeah, that's the thing is like this game is what 6 years old or whatever
yeah,
now, or 8 years old. I'm sorry, and you're still only selling it for like maybe at the most 35 or something. It's crazy. And then it's like nothing from like not even Echoes of Wisdom or Mario Party or nothing from this year is on there first party wise, and it's like okay, I don't need to rush and buy this because you like never put anything on sale, so I can just buy it whenever the hell I guess I have money to just spend $50 or $60 on a Nintendo game, which is very rare. So
right.
yeah, we'll see when it comes to that. What did you think of Nintendo's 2024? Where does it rank for you as far as compared to the other console makers, and how excited are you for the Switch 2? Let us know there in the comments. I guess even though I don't think there's really anything like on the horizon for, no pun intended there, as far as what's coming in this like last week or so, I don't really think that there's really anything, because most of the releases for this month already came out if they were gonna come out. Right now it's just kind of like we're all waiting until next year,
right?
Everybody's taking a break for the holidays, or whatever. So I mean, just like looking at January, I think the biggest game right now is Dynasty Warriors Origins, if I'm not mistaken, and that comes out in the middle of the month. So it looks like the big month is going to be February right now, as far as like the early part of the year, which that February is like absolutely freaking stacked. But obviously they also got to like nail down. Everybody's kind of like trying not to even release anywhere near anything right now, because they don't know when GTA's coming. So that's kind of like also kind of up in the air. It's crazy to think there's another, well, it's like a remaster or whatever, but East Memory Oath and Falcon is also coming like pretty quick in January. So, but all right. Hopefully everybody has a great Christmas. We'll be back on Saturday, the 28th, is when we'll do it live, and then obviously it'll be out there on podcasts and stuff. Our game of the year, Randy will be on that episode, so it'll be the three of us doing our like top 15s, and then we'll turn that into, I'll do the crunch the numbers and everything, and we'll have our top 25 based on everybody's rankings. And then that next episode on the Monday, December 30th will be our most anticipated games of 2025. And then we'll get into regular episodes in the new year after that. So, all right. Until then, everybody, see y'all later. Happy holidays.
Yep.
Bye.
Later.